Well, how are you doing? Okay, this is going to be hopefully a short video. I always say that. I'm just going to point out some stuff here. I made a video, my last video. It was pointing out how there was only two time zones in Australia and how there was more than two across the United States. Yet, Australia and the United States, at its two widest points, there's only 300 or just over 300 miles of a difference in width. So, I'm going to show something here. All right, so I'm going to go into time zones. Okay, the continental United States is divided into four time zones: Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. That's four they're claiming for the United States. Okay, so here we are. Right, there's Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. Right, now I'm ignoring Hawaii and Alaska for the moment because I'm just working on the mainland here. No offense to people there. And in Australia, they say there's three: the Australian Eastern Standard Time, the Australian Central Standard Time, and the Australian Western Standard Time, right? And they are here. So you can see one, two, three. But this is not correct, right? There isn't four time zones across the United States, and there isn't three time zones across Australia. I'm going to show you what I mean. So if we just go to the polar. So this is now, ignore the latitude positions on this because there isn't the right amount of latitude positions. But this polar coordinates diagram does have 24 segments of longitude, right, on it. So from here to here is 12. From here back up to here is 12. So you have 24 portions of longitude. Now each portion of longitude is 15 degrees of sun movement. That's what it is, solar movement. So that's where the longitude lines come from. That's where they're derived from. Even though the whole latitude and longitude grid is started and derived from Polaris, the longitude lines, the latitudes are based off of Polaris, the longitudes are based off the sun, right? So that's how it works. And it works best, the only way it actually works is when it's flat, right? Because it's a flat grid, right? Derived from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. That's where it all comes from. But if you want to reference the longitude lines, then you're referencing 24 hours. That's what the whole point of it is. Now, I know there's 360 around, right, in azimuth. I know that. But the main longitude lines, the main portions are 24 because it's all based on the sun. 24 hours. A 24-hour day is calculated between one solar noon and the next. That's exactly 24 hours. That 24 hours is derived from those series of moments. Those series of moments between both solar noons in the same location, right? So all those 24 hours, all those minutes and seconds, they're all the whole point of all them is to divide out that 24 hours, or those series of moments from one solar noon to the next. That's the whole point of it. That's where clocks come from. Everything. It's all based on that, right? So our time, what we call time, is just a calculation based off of solar movement, right? And each of the main longitude lines address solar movement. So from here to here is 1 hour. Here to here is 2 hours. Here to here is 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, etc. Right? So let me show you something. Right? So I'm going to use Charleston, South Carolina, right, which is over on the east coast of the United States, and it's 1845, right? Now this is earlier, I put this together, so it might not be exactly 1845 now, if you want, but it doesn't matter. It's all the same for the video. So it's 1845 in Charleston, South Carolina, right? In Long Beach, it's 1545. That's 3 hours, right? So the distance between the two locations is 2,200 miles, right? So that's 3 hours, and the distance is 2,200 miles. So the time in Sydney is 8:45 a.m. and the time in Perth is 6:45 a.m. Right? That's 2 hours, right? And the distance is 2,049 miles. These are the airline distances between the two. I use the same website, whatever, right? There might be some differences. Some of them will give more than 2,049. That's okay. I'm just trying to err as much on the side of trying to keep it as little as possible, right? That way I have the least amount of advantage in the video. Not that I need it, because I'm going to show exactly what's going on. So between Charleston and Long Beach, there's 3 hours difference of time, right? That's solar time, 3 hours. Between Sydney and Perth, there was 2 hours. Yet there's only 150 miles of difference between the two locations. If you want to talk about width, as far as airline distance, straight line distance, there's only 150 miles, right? And maybe a little bit less than that. Some places will give me a greater distance between Perth and Sydney, right? So we'll say 150 miles, right? Now that 1 hour, that 1 extra hour of solar movement, that's 15 degrees in the sky of solar movement, right? That's not going to happen over a 150 mile distance, right? That's not going to happen. That's not how time works. So there's a reason why Australia, between Sydney and Perth, which are both on an average of 32 degrees, right, south latitude, and Charleston and Long Beach are on an average of 32 degrees north latitude. So their latitudes are equal, right? There's a reason why there's only 2 hours of time between this distance, and there's 3 hours of time between this distance, even though there's only 150 miles in the difference. As I said the last time in my last video, the Gleasons map has the sizes of the continents and countries wrong south of the equator, but it has the latitude and longitude grid correct, right? Because that's what it's based off of 24 hours solar day. So once it's flattened out like this, it is a solar map. But you have to change the areas south of the equator to match the latitude and longitude grid, because they're stretched, like Africa is stretched here, South America is stretched here, Africa is stretched, and Australia is stretched, right? I did the best I could with this one. This is the only one. This is the best one I could get online, and as you can see, it's not the clearest, but you should be able to see. I'll try and go in a bit more further. I don't want to mangle it too much optically. So here is one longitude line. Here is another longitude line. Here is another longitude line. And here is another longitude line. So technically, South Carolina and Long Beach, right, have between the straight line between South Carolina and Long Beach are only intersected. That is only intersected by 2 longitude lines, and there's 1, 2, 3 hours between South Carolina and Charleston, South Carolina, and Long Beach, right, which is completely matching the Gleasons map, right? As far as, because the sizes of the countries and continents north of the equator, that's not really in question. It's the sizes of the continents and countries south of the equator on the Gleasons map that's in question, right? Because they're all stretched out. But if we make them the right size, right, you will see, right, that Australia, right, if you take the United States that was just there, which is technically very slightly wider than Australia, and you place it here, then it'll be between this longitude line and this longitude line. So it will only be intersected by this one, which is why there's only 2 hours between Sydney and Perth, because Australia is technically only intersected by one of the main longitude lines. It has another longitude line to its east and another one to its west, but there's only one going through it. Whereas the United States, the southern United States, let's just say, is only intersected by 2, right? It has one out here and one kind of just touching on Southern California area here, right? Whatever, right? So the point is that there's 3 hours between Charleston, North Carolina, and Long Beach, California, because there's 3 portions of longitude between them. That's 1, 2, 3, and in Australia, there's only 2 portions of longitude between Sydney and Perth. So if this was unstretched, right, and put to its correct size, then it would be just 1, 2. That's it. Because all you're going to have in Central Australia is 9 o'clock. If it's 10 o'clock in Sydney, it'll be 9 o'clock in Central Australia and 8 o'clock in Perth. That's what it's going to be. If I just zoom out again, just to see, so you can see. Now, here is, right, there is the United States, and Australia is almost at the two widest points. The United States is slightly wider because you have this portion up here. But if you take this portion out, this is upper Maine, I think, or whatever it is, upper Massachusetts maybe, um, and you put Australia in here, as I showed with a comparison to last time, that's basically the same width. But as you can see, there was 1, 2, 3 portions of longitude, whereas if you take the US and you put it over here, it will only be able to be intersected by one. If you take that US there, if we could do it, I don't have the software to do it. Take that portion there with Photoshop, put it over here. It's going to be only intersected by one longitude line. That's why there was 3 hours between Charlotte, North Carolina, and Long Beach, California, and only 2 hours between Sydney, Australia, and Perth, Australia. So where is the right? I did this up the last time. This is the exact width of Australia as to what its points. And I've used, it's just, I put in this green circle here is, I'm just going to take off that background. Show axis, no, take off the, no grid, right? The green circle there is the 33rd degree parallel south, right? Whereas Perth, I think, is 31 or 32 or 31, and Sydney is 32, something like that, but they're close on that, right? They're close on the 33rd degree parallel south, 32 degree, let's just say. So I made a straight line, right? Which is, I made a chord out of the 33 degree parallel to show the 2,500 mile that width of Australia, which is what's being represented there. And I've made the portions, these two portions are exactly the correct, they're just about 3,439, 3,439 miles. Like, so if you use the latitude and longitude grid correctly, then the circumference here will be, let me just see, I just gave you the circumference. Oh, look, I won't bother with that now. I won't bother. Right? But the point is that these two will make up 2 of 24 that goes right around it. I think it's 77,000 and whatever circumference. So 3,439 miles will be one portion of longitude. So I'm showing exactly there why if you move Australia, this is the Australia here. If we move this to the left or to the right by a bit, it still won't end up over here or over here. It'll always be intersected by only the one longitude line. So even if it's slightly this way or slightly that way, it doesn't matter. There's still only, and I don't think it is. I think this is exactly where it is. I think there's a longitude line runs just basically straight through the center of it. And that's why I think, just go back to the Gleasons map. And that's why I think Gleason has this line run through there. Because technically, right, because with all the other countries north of the, see, on his map, everything that's stretched south of the equator, it all has to match north of the equator. So he can't have things stretched up here and down there. So this line here has to match all there. And I reckon this is exactly straight through the center of Australia, basically. So that would have to come in here. That would have to come in here to match about the size of the United States here. And Australia would be about this size. Right, I'm just going to get, a circle just to show. I don't want that. I want this. And I want, give me that. Give me that just to make it a bit. So make it this size. Try and make it about the right size. Sorry, no. It's not exactly perfect, but it'll do for the moment, right? So that's the point. Over here, it's not really great. I can't tone it up or down. But the point is that would be about the size of Australia in reality over there. Now, obviously, it's not going to be off at that angle, but that'll be about the size of Australia. So you can see that it's not going to be, you can see it's not going to be out over here and over there. I reckon this longitude line is cutting, where it cuts through Australia here is exactly where it's cutting through It's just they have it stretched from from this longitude line out west and out east, right? That's what's going on. So technically, the latitude and longitude grid is proving that the Earth, obviously, it comes from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris and the sun's movement, and it's proving that the reason there's only 3 hours between, the reason there's 3 hours of time difference between Charleston, South Carolina, and Long Beach is because the West is only being intersected across that straight line by 2 longitude lines, and the reason there's only 2 hours of a time difference between Sydney and Perth is because Australia is only being intersected, or that straight line from Sydney to Perth is only being intersected by 1 longitude line. So there's no way around it. I mean, they can stretch what they want on their maps. In the end of the day, there's a reason why if you placed America over here, which is right, isn't only going to be intersected by 1 longitude line. There's a reason why, because the Earth is not a globe. That's the reason. The Earth has to be flat for that to be true, and it is, as I've shown. That's why there's 3 for America, 3 hours for America, and only 2 for Australia. Now, I'll leave the video with that because it's already 16 minutes in. So, hope you enjoy it. Bye.